At the outset, I would like to thank Professor Azad for giving me this opportunity to be here today. I have no financial disclosures. We all know that ROP is a vasoproliferative disorder of the retina, which occurs in premature children due to a defective vasculogenesis. Coming to the classification, the international classification on ROP was published in 3 parts. The first one was in 1984, and later it was expanded in 1987, and it was revisited in 2005. There are various components in this classification. One is the location of the disease, where each eye is divided into 3 zones. The extent of the disease in the form of number of clock hours involved, staging of the disease, and plus disease. Coming to the zones, Zone 1 is a circle which has wherein the diameter is twice the distance from the center of the optic disc to the macula, and Zone 2 extends from the end of Zone 1 to the nasal periphery, and Zone 3 is the remaining temporal crescent. Extent of the disease, as I already told you, each eye is divided into 12 clock hours, and 3 o'clock is nasal in the right eye and temporal in the left eye, and 9 o'clock is temporal in the right eye and nasal in the left eye. Staging of the disease, it is done according to the degree of vascular changes, and each change is defined by its location in zone and also in extent in clock hours for documentation. Stage 1, where it's a thin demarcation line, as you see here. It's thin but definitive structure separating the avascular from the vascular retina. It's flat and lies in the plane of the retina. Stage 2 is a ridge, where the demarcation line assumes a 3-dimensional thing. It assumes height, width and volume. It extends out of the plane of the retina. And also one can note small tufts of new vessels which may be seen posterior to it, known as popcorn lesions. Stage 3 is the same ridge with extraretinal fibrovascular proliferations. This can either be continuous or non-continuous, and these are seen posterior to the ridge. And these are further subdivided into mild, moderate and severe according to the amount of fibrovascular proliferation. Stage 4 is a stage of partial retinal detachment, and it is further divided into 4A and 4B. 4A when the detachment is not involving the macula, and 4B where the retinal detachment involves the macula. Stage 5 is the stage of total retinal detachment, and ultrasonographically it can be further subdivided into open, narrow, or a narrow open, depending on the configuration. Then in 2005 they introduced term aggressive posterior ROP, which is predominantly in zone 1 or posterior zone 2. The thing is, it does not follow the previous ICROP stages, and it is associated with fast progression and poor outcome. Also, they came out with a practical tool for estimating zone 1, where using your 28 or 30 diopter lens and keeping the optic disc image in this at the edge of the lens, and the remaining retina is visualized as zone 1 or posterior zone 2. Also, they introduced the term pre-plus, which is an intermediate level of plus disease between frank plus disease and normal posterior pole vessels. Plus disease is a sign indicating severity of ROP, and it's progressive vascular incompetence, which is seen as dilatation and tortuosity of the posterior retinal vessels, as you see here. Also, it is normally associated with engorged iris vessels, pupil rigidity and a vitreous haze. Basically, the basic principle of classification is the more posterior the disease and greater the amount of involved retinal vasculature, the more serious is the disease. Coming to the differential diagnosis, they can be divided into for stages 1 to 4A and stage 5. For stages 1 to 4A of ROP, the only disease that one can confuse is FEVR. And for stage 5 ROP, one should keep all the causes of leukocoria like retinoblastoma, Coats, Norris and incontinentia pigmenti. Coming to familial exudative vitreoretinopathy, it's a retinal vascular disease in which the retinal vessels fail to grow into the peripheral retina. It was also called ROP of full-term babies, but here it's a lifelong vascularly active disease unlike an ROP. It's a genetically transmitted disease unlike ROP, and the mode of inheritance, the most common is the autosomal dominant, and it rarely can be X-linked. Clinically, one can see at the junction of the vascular and avascular retina a line of vascular buds that are different from the neovascularization of ROP and telangiectatic vessels of Coats disease. And the classification of FEVR is similar to the ICROP classification, wherein stage 1 is an avascular retinal periphery without any extraretinal vascularization. Stage 2 is an avascular retinal periphery with extraretinal vascularization with or without exudates. Stage 3 is a subtotal retinal detachment without involving the fovea, and stage 4 is a subtotal retinal detachment involving the fovea, and stage 5 is a total retinal detachment which can be either an open or a closed funnel. Coming to leukocoria, one should always consider retinoblastoma, and one should always rule out retinoblastoma. And if it is unilateral, you should have PHPV and Coats in the differential diagnosis. And if it is bilateral and hereditary, then one should think of juvenile X-linked retinoschisis, Norris or incontinentia pigmenti. And if it is sporadic, you should think of trisomy 13. I'll just go through briefly about each condition. Retinoblastoma, it's also normally associated with a leukocoria in 60%, strabismus in 20%. Rarely, it can also present with uveitis, glaucoma, hyphema, and proptosis. As far as screening is concerned, all the children should be screened at the age of 3 months, either by a general ophthalmologist or even a pediatrician, wherein using your direct ophthalmoscope, you should check for the red reflex, and also you should check for the corneal light reflex. Here the leukocoria is caused by the tumor floating in the vitreous cavity as in endophytic retinoblastoma, or by a detached retina behind the lens as in exophytic. Also, one's attention should be drawn towards the anterior chamber. Also look for iris nodules and also the anterior vitreous face. The posterior segment B scan will show calcification, which is seen as extremely high internal reflectivity, causing shadowing of the adjacent sclera. Also, CT scan is a sensitive method for diagnosis and detecting intraocular calcification, but one should also exert caution and not subject these children to too many CT scans. The other differential diagnosis is persistent hyperplastic primary vitreous, wherein it's an ocular assembly disorder in which the fetal vasculature does not regress. It is unilateral in 90% and it is usually non-progressive. Right now, it is now called as persistent fetal vasculature syndrome because it's a more precise name, as hyaloid vessels and tunica vasculosa lentis both can persist either in a combination or alone. It's further divided into anterior and posterior. Anterior is predominantly tunica vasculosa lentis remanence, and posterior is predominantly hyaloid system remanence. Posterior PHPV is normally can be with or without microphthalmos, posterior lens opacity, vitreous stalk. One can see a retinal fold or a tractional retinal detachment. Also, traction on the ciliary process can result in permanent damage of the ciliary body or ciliary body detachment leading to hypotony, and traction on the lens can be associated with a posterior lenticornus. B-scan is a challenge because this stock can sometimes are very thin and overlooked. Port's disease, it's an idiopathic condition characterized by telangiectatic and aneurysmal retinal vessels with intra and subretinal exudates, and it's further subdivided into 5 stages, where stage 1 is telangiectasia, stage 2 is telangiectasia with exudation, stage 3 is exudative detachment, stage 4 is a total retinal detachment with secondary glaucoma, and stage 5 is advanced end-stage disease. The only thing is here males are 3 times more affected, and it is unilateral in more than 80% of cases. And in the juvenile form, it's associated with poor vision, strabismus and leukocoria, and in adult form, it is associated with hypercholesteremia. I'll just skip a few slides for want of time. And the other differential diagnosis is juvenile retinoschisis, which is not so uncommon disorder affecting males. It is often underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed, and it can confused with leukocoria. But the most important thing is proper identification is pertinent in management and genetic counseling. Here the trait is passed genetically to affected males by their mothers, and female carrier state is not identifiable. Rarely these carriers can have white flecks or areas of schisis involving the peripheral retina. And here there is a presence of bilateral symmetrical foveal schisis, which is pathognomonic. Over here there is no history of prematurity, and these changes are present since birth. When it is associated with a retinal detachment, it is never in the shape of a funnel. And if leukocoria is due to the inner layer, then no vessels are seen in the retrolental space. Incontinentia pigmenta is confined to females, and skin lesions are characteristics. It's an excellent recessive disease, Norris. And trisomy 13, it is associated. Other ocular features are microphthalmos, colobomas, retinal dysplasia, cataracts, PHPV or intraocular cartilage formation, and it's normally associated with congenital heart disease, other hematological abnormalities, skin hemangiomas, CNS abnormalities, and either a cleft lip or a cleft palate. Thank you.